Before we begin today's story, please take a second to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. Now, let us begin. Moonrise Girls Academy sat quietly at the edge of Ogbalu forest where the trees grew tall like silent guards and the wind always whispered secrets through the leaves. It was a school respected by many and feared by few. In the daytime, laughter filled the courtyards, classrooms echoed with recitations and songs, and the scent of freshly cooked rice and beans drifted from the dining hall. But at night, the school became something else. The hallways creaked, the ancient clocks ticked louder than normal, and certain doors, ones that had no labels, seemed to breathe when you walked past them. Yet in the middle of this quiet unease, there was one comforting presence everyone trusted. Madame Ireti. She was the school mother. The caretaker. The woman every girl ran to when they missed home. She was not old, nor young, but seemed to belong to time itself. Her voice was always soft. Her hands were always warm. Her smile never faded. When students cried, she sang them to sleep. When they were sick, she sat all night by their bedside. When they felt lonely, she told them stories of brave girls and glorious futures. Parents even said, "Once your daughter is in Madame Ireti's hands, she is safe." But not everyone felt safe. One rainy afternoon, 13-year-old Adaeze sat by the classroom window while the other girls ran out, laughing under the heavy gray sky. Water raced down the glass as she watched the forest in the distance. Something about it called her. "Adaeze, are you not coming for lunch?" Her friend, Bissy, asked. In a minute, she replied softly. Bissy hesitated. "You're always staring at that forest. Don't you know people say strange things happen there?" Adaeze forced a smile. "Do you believe every story you hear?" But the truth was, she had been hearing things too. Not rumors, not stories, whispers. Sometimes at night, just as she was about to fall asleep, she heard someone calling her name in a voice that sounded both familiar and strange. Adaeze, Adaeze. She always sat up, heart racing, eyes scanning the dark hostel. But everyone else slept peacefully. One night, the whisper grew closer, clearer. "Come and see who you really are." That same evening, Adaeze developed a slight fever. Her body felt warm, but her mind felt cold and alert. The nurse was unavailable, and so, as always, someone was called. "Go and get Madame Ireti." Seconds later, the school mother entered the sick bay, her white gown touching the floor, her silver bangles barely making a sound. Her eyes met Adaeze's, and for a second, time froze. "Your spirit is stronger than your body," she said, placing her palm on Adaeze's forehead. The fever vanished instantly. The other girls gasped. "How did you do that so fast?" One of them whispered. Madame Ireti smiled gently. "Some children carry earthquakes in their blood. You must learn how to calm them." From that night, she began to give Adaeze special attention. Extra food, private conversations, inviting her to stay behind after evening prep. "You are different, my child," she would say as she brushed Adaeze's hair. "You do not belong to small places. You were born for something greater." Those words made Adaeze both proud and afraid. Then came the night everything changed. The rain fell like stones against the roof. Thunder growled over the school compound as all the girls slept. Then, slowly, Adaeze's eyes snapped open. The school clock read 3:15 a.m. The whisper returned, closer than ever. Now, her bare feet touched the cold floor without her even realizing she had stood up. As if guided by an unseen hand, she walked out of the dormitory, down the long corridor, past the library, past the chapel, past the headmistress' office, and stopped in front of the forbidden storeroom, a place no one was allowed to enter. No key, no handle, no reason, but, tonight, it had a handle, and the door was slightly open. With trembling fingers, she pushed it. Inside, there was no dust, no boxes, no darkness, only Madame Ireti, but she no longer looked human. Her white uniform had transformed into a flowing glowing robe. Her eyes gleamed silver like a full moon. The walls shimmered like water. I have been waiting for you, Adaeze, she said. Waiting for you to remember who you are. The floor beneath them began to move, like liquid glass. Adaeze tried to speak but no words came out. She reached for the door, and the world disappeared. Adaeze did not fall. Instead, it felt as if invisible hands were carrying her gently through a tunnel made of light and shadow. Colors she had never seen before fluttered around her, deep purples, burning golds, glowing blues. Strange symbols swam in the air like living creatures, forming and breaking apart in silence. Her clothes had vanished. She now wore a thin silver dress that floated around her like mist. "Where am I?" she whispered, but her voice echoed 100 times, like it did not belong to a single world. Then, her feet touched solid ground. Adaeze looked up. She was standing in the middle of a vast forest, but it was unlike any forest on Earth. The trees were taller than towers, their trunks glowing from within. Their leaves shimmered as if made of glass, reflecting faint faces upon them. A river made of liquid light flowed slowly nearby, humming like a living thing. Above her, the sky was a deep violet color, swirling gently like smoke in water. Floating lanterns drifted through the air without strings, lighting a stone path that stretched far into the distance. At the end of the path stood a magnificent palace made of black crystal and silver fire. Its tall gates stood open. "This is the kingdom beneath the mirror." The voice came from behind her. Adaeze turned around and gasped. Madame Ireti stood there, but she no longer looked like the soft school mother. She had transformed completely. A crown woven from moonlight rested on her head. Her glowing robe shifted colors with every breath. Her skin looked flawless, timeless, powerful. "You have finally returned home, my child," she said. "Home," Adaeze whispered. "This is not my home. My home is the hostel. My bed, my friends." Madame Ireti smiled. "That is where your body stayed. But your spirit has always belonged here." As they walked toward the palace, hooded figures began to appear from between the glowing trees. Their footsteps made no sound. They surrounded her in a silent circle, studying her. Some had eyes like fire. Some had eyes like ice. Some had no eyes at all, only shadow. "You are late, Ireti," one of them said, her voice like echoing bells. "We have waited many years for the child of the double world." Adaeze trembled. "I am just a student," she said. "There must be a mistake." A tall figure approached her slowly. When it pulled back its hood, Adaeze gasped. The face looked exactly like her, older, colder, powerful. "This is who you are meant to become," the woman said. "A queen of two worlds." Suddenly the air filled with images. Visions. She saw herself dressed in gold, commanding crowds. Words alone made people kneel. With a glance she could create wealth, influence minds, open doors, close destinies. No hunger, no poverty, no suffering, but power always requires loyalty, Madame Ireti said quietly. And loyalty requires a price. The ground trembled gently as a crystal throne rose from beneath the earth. It sparkled like 1,000 mirrors combined. "Sit," one of the figures commanded. Adaeze stepped back. "I don't want a throne," she cried. "I just want to go back." Murmurs filled the air, like angry wind. "There is no going back for the chosen," a voice thundered. "When you were born, this path was written." She turned to Madame Ireti, panic in her eyes. "You said you cared for me. You said I was special. Was everything a lie?" Madame Ireti hesitated, for a very small moment. "I cared for you in the only way I know how," she said. "I prepared you for greatness. I saved you for this world. By lying to me, by using me, by keeping me away from my real family. You do not understand what it means to be powerful," she replied, her voice now firm like stone. "You do not understand the weakness you came from." The hooded figures raised their hands. Strange symbols glowed in the air, circling Adaeze's. skin like living chains of light. Will you accept your initiation, and your crown? They asked in one voice. The forest held its breath. Adaeze looked down at her hands. They were shaking. Her heart was racing. Part of her felt frightened, yet another part felt tempted. No more suffering, no more struggle, no more small life, just power and glory. But then, she heard a different sound carried across the strange sky, a voice praying. Her grandmother's voice, soft, trembling, loving. Adaeze, my child, no matter where you are, light will always find you. Tears slid down her cheeks. I need time, she whispered. I need to remember who I am. The figures darkened. In this kingdom, Madame Ireti said slowly, there is no time. And in the distance, the palace gates began to close. Boom, 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 like a heartbeat counting down her final moments in the human world. The palace gates closed with a deafening boom. A shockwave tore through the glowing forest, sending ripples through the golden river and shaking the crystal throne at the center of the clearing. Adaeze flinched. The hooded figures stepped closer, forming a wide circle around her. The floating lanterns dimmed. The sky deepened from purple to dark crimson, as though the world itself sensed her fear. Madame Ireti raised one slow hand, and the world went silent. No wind, no whispers, no humming river, only power and breathing. You have been given a rare honor, Adaeze, a tall figure said, stepping forward. Her voice now deep and ancient, no longer musical. Many are born, few are chosen, and even fewer are offered the crown of two worlds. She is frightened, said another. Fear makes the mind weak. No, Madame Ireti replied. Her eyes never left Adaeze's face. Fear means she still understands what she is about to lose. Those words echoed through Adaeze's chest. Lose, she gasped. You told me I would gain everything. You will, Ireti said calmly. But only when you lose who you used to be. The ground beneath them shimmered, and suddenly cracked open into a wide hole of light. From within it, a tall platform slowly rose. Upon it sat a table carved from what looked like black diamond. On the table lay three objects: a silver bowl of glowing water, a razor-thin golden blade, and a black stone heart. This is the price of power, the figures said in unison. Adaeze stared at the objects, her body frozen. What do I do? She whispered. You choose, Madame Ireti replied. The first figure spoke. If you choose the bowl, you forget your entire human life. Your mother, your friends, your name, wiped away. You will become one of us forever. Another voice followed. If you choose the blade, you cut yourself from the world of light. You shall walk among humans, but never feel love, pity, or guilt again. Then, the tallest figure lifted the black heart. But if you choose this, you must replace your human heart with it. And in return, you will rule all things beneath the mirror. Adaeze's whole body trembled. You want me to destroy myself, she cried. No, Madame Ireti corrected. We want you to become more than yourself. Suddenly, the air around them shifted. Mirrors rose up from the ground, dozens of them, spinning slowly around Adaeze in a circle. And inside every single mirror, were visions. Girls she recognized, former students of the academy. Girls who had fallen sick suddenly. Girls who had vanished without explanation. Girls everyone had forgotten. They stood in white, holding candles in silence, their eyes empty, their lips sewn closed with delicate silver thread. They were not strong enough, Madame Ireti whispered behind her. Not intelligent enough, not special enough. Adaeze's tears began to fall like rain. You did this to them, she whispered in horror. I saved them from ordinary lives, she said coldly. You were meant to be their queen. So all those nights you held me while I cried, all those stories you told me, you were only preparing me for this moment. Yes, every lesson, every secret conversation, every time she told you, you are different. It was training, she said. It was destiny. The mirrors darkened, the silent girls faded, an invisible pressure pushed down on Adaeze's shoulders, forcing her to kneel before the objects. Choose, the figures demanded. The palace in the distance pulsed with dark light like a living heart. One more choice, and her life would change forever. Adaeze stared at the objects. Then slowly, she looked up at Madame Ireti. Was I ever your daughter? She murmured. For the first time, something flickered in Ireti's eyes. Pain, regret, but it vanished instantly. I was never meant to be your mother, she said. I was meant to be your keeper. The symbols around Adaeze's skin began to burn. Strange marks glowed along her arms. A crown made of shadow started forming slowly above her head. The kingdom was claiming her. The sky split open. Screams and chants filled the air as the figures lifted their hands, drawing power from the ground, from the palace, from the mirrors, and then, a sound cut through everything. Not a chant, not a scream, not thunder, a prayer, faint, but powerful. Adaeze, my daughter, where you walk, light is stronger. Where you are lost, love will find you, her grandmother's voice. A warm golden glow began to rise from Adaeze's chest. No, one of the figures hissed. That is forbidden. Stop her. Another shouted. Madame Ireti turned sharply. What is this? She demanded. Adaeze looked down at her hands. They were no longer glowing with the kingdom's energy. They were glowing with something brighter. Something human. Something pure. Love, she whispered in realization. You never understood love. The golden light grew stronger, pushing the dark symbols away, crackling across the ground, shattering the mirrors one by one. The silent girls inside them vanished in blinding light. The crystal throne cracked. The palace trembled, and for the first time in centuries, the kingdom beneath the mirror began to shake. Madame Ireti stepped back in fear. If you finish that prayer, she warned, her voice shaking, this world will collapse. Adaeze raised her head, her tears now burning like fire. Then let it fall, and as she opened her mouth to speak, the ground split beneath them, dragging the kingdom into darkness. The ground split open with a thunderous crack that shook the very sky. A deep, endless darkness yawned beneath the shattered earth, swallowing light, swallowing sound, swallowing the remains of the crystal throne and the broken mirrors. But Adaeze did not fall. She hovered in midair, her body surrounded by a glowing golden aura that pulsed like a living heart. Her hair lifted as if caught in an invisible wind. The strange marks on her skin faded, replaced by shining symbols shaped like tiny suns. Below her, the hooded figures screamed as the world they had built began collapsing into itself. No, this cannot be happening. One of them cried. She was chosen. You cannot break the binding. Another shrieked. The crown is already forming. Above Adaeze's head, the half-formed crown of shadow trembled violently as the golden light pushed against it. Two forces, fighting for one soul. Madame Ireti stood a few steps away, her glowing robe now flickering, cracking like breaking glass. For the first time in many years, she looked afraid. You don't understand what you are doing, she shouted over the roaring wind. This kingdom exists because of sacrifice, because of power. Without it, millions of spirits will be lost. Adaeze looked at her, tears streaming from her eyes, but her voice was strong. No, this kingdom exists because you are afraid of weakness, of love, of being human. The forest around them began to wither. The glowing leaves turned to dust. The golden river turned black as ink. But from Adaeze's chest, the light only grew brighter. In the real world, far away, in a small village, Adaeze's grandmother lay on her mat, surrounded by women from the church. Her body was weak, but her spirit was powerful. She is fighting, the old woman whispered. I can feel her spirit battling a darkness older than time. Everyone joined hands as she began to pray louder. Adaeze, hear me, my child. You are not alone. The light of your God moves with you. The power to choose is yours. The earth beneath the village trembled. The wind howled. The sky turned gold for just a moment, then returned to normal. But everyone who witnessed it knew something supernatural was happening. Back in the kingdom beneath the mirror, a storm of shadows rushed toward Adaeze. The hooded figures chanted in an ancient tongue, raising their hands as black smoke twisted into long chains, shooting upward to bind her wrists and ankles. They wrapped around her like snakes made of night. "Enough of this rebellion," one of them hissed. "Your power belongs to us now." The chains tightened. Pain shot through her body. For a moment, the light flickered, and Madame Ireti stepped forward. "Look at yourself," she shouted. "You could have ruled this world. Humans would have bowed at your feet. You could have changed their destinies with one word." "I don't want to rule them," Adaeze cried. "I want to live with them." The chains pulled harder. The darkness pressed closer. "You are nothing without us," Ireti screamed. And just as Adaeze felt her strength fading, she saw something appear in the glowing air around her. Faces. Her friends at school, laughing at lunch. Her teachers, correcting her work with gentle smiles. Her grandmother combing her hair as a little girl. Her younger self, running, dreaming, hoping. Normal life. Imperfect. Beautiful. "I am not nothing," she whispered. "I am loved." Suddenly she remembered the full prayer her grandmother taught her as a child. And with her last strength, she spoke it. "I am not of darkness. I am not of chains. I am of breath, of earth, of light. And I choose to live." A blinding explosion of golden energy burst from her body. The chains shattered into smoke. The hooded figures were thrown backwards, screaming as their forms began to melt away. The forest disintegrated. The palace cracked straight down the middle. And in that moment, Adaeze saw the truth. Under the masks, under the robes, they were not monsters. They were broken souls who had once been human, but had clung to power instead of healing. "No," Madame Ireti whispered as the cracks ran across her own glowing skin. This was not how it was meant to end. Her crown shattered into dust. She reached out toward Adaeze as the world around her burned away into white nothingness. "I made you powerful. You tried to own me," Adaeze replied sadly. "And no one owns my soul." The mirror sky above them broke like glass. The last thing Adaeze saw was Madame Ireti being pulled into the collapsing darkness, her face frozen between anger and regret. Then, there was silence. And light. And falling. Not into darkness now, but into warmth. In the school, students gasped as a bright flash lit up the entire hallway near the forbidden storeroom. Windows rattled, lights burst overhead, and then, everything went still. Teachers and students ran toward the hallway and found Adaeze lying on the floor, unconscious but breathing. The storeroom door was gone. No handle, no lock, no wall, just smooth, untouched bricks, as if it had never existed. "She's alive," someone cried. "She has been missing for 2 days." Another shouted, and as the bell rang for morning prayers, Adaeze finally opened her eyes. But something deep within her knew, the battle was not fully over yet. Because in another world, in another mirror, something was still watching her. Adaeze opened her eyes slowly. White ceiling, soft murmurs, the gentle smell of herbs and antiseptic. She was in the school's sick bay. For a long moment she did not move. She only listened. Footsteps, whispers, a distant bell ringing for morning assembly. "You're awake. Thank God." The shaky voice belonged to Bissy. Adaeze turned her head and saw her best friend seated beside the bed, eyes red from crying, hands clasped in prayer. "How long have I been here?" Adaeze whispered. Bissy wiped her face quickly. 2 days. We thought we lost you. They found you on the floor near the old storeroom, but that room doesn't even exist anymore. The wall is completely normal. Teachers are scared." Adaeze closed her eyes briefly. She remembered everything. The kingdom, the throne, the mirrors, the chains. "Madame Ireti, where is Madame Ireti?" she asked quietly. Bissy's face turned pale. "She's gone. Vanished. No one has seen her since the night you disappeared. The headmistress has called the police, but it's like she never existed in the first place. Her records are gone, her files, everything." A strange, sad silence filled the room. Adaeze didn't feel victory. She felt a heavy kind of peace, layered with grief. Strange changes as the days passed. Adaeze returned to her classes. But everything felt, and looked, different. She could see people's emotions before they spoke. She could sense sadness behind smiles. She could feel danger before it arrived. Mirrors sometimes shimmered when she walked past them. And at night, in her dreams, she still saw the broken palace sinking deeper and deeper into the dark. Yet something else began to happen too. Flowers bloomed wherever she stood too long. Sick students recovered faster when she sat beside them. Quarrels settled when she spoke. It was like the light that saved her had not left, it had chosen to stay inside her. She's changed, some students whispered. She's blessed, others said. But Adaeze never called it magic. She called it purpose. The last visitation on the seventh night after her return, Adaeze sat alone under the stars at the school garden. The moon was full and bright. The air was calm, too calm. Then a familiar voice slid through the silence. You destroyed the only world that ever truly understood you. Adaeze's heart tightened. From the shadow beneath the tree, a faint glowing figure appeared. Madame Ireti. But she was different now. No crown, no glow, no power. Only a fading woman with tired eyes and a broken spirit. Why have you come back? Adaeze asked calmly. To see if it was worth it, she whispered. To see what a world built on love looks like. She looked around the garden, at the peaceful trees, the distant sounds of laughter from the hostel, the living, breathing world. And is it? Adaeze asked. Madame Ireti was silent for a moment. Yes, she replied softly. It is, painfully beautiful. Tears slid down her transparent face. I was once like you, she continued. I was chosen too, frightened too. And I chose power over people. I chained myself long before I ever chained others. Adaeze walked closer, no fear left in her eyes. I broke the kingdom, she said gently. But you can still free yourself. Ireti looked up. Is there redemption for someone like me? There is redemption for anyone who chooses light, Adaeze replied. For the first time, Madame Ireti smiled a real human smile. And slowly, like mist touched by sunrise, she faded away. Not into darkness, but into light. 1 year later, Moonrise Girls Academy became one of the most peaceful schools in the region. The dark feeling that once surrounded it was completely gone. No student ever disappeared again. The forbidden hallway was rebuilt into a prayer room and library. And at the center of it stood a small carving. In this place, a girl chose light over power, and saved more than herself. Adaeze later left the school with top honors. She grew to become a counselor for young girls, helping those from troubled homes discover their worth. She taught them only one lesson: true power is not in control. True power is in choice. And sometimes, late at night, when the moon is full, a mirror somewhere will shimmer, and the world will remember the girl who refused a crown of darkness and chose to remain human.